How y'all doing out there in YouTube land? This Stiletto coming at you from the Wild Wild West. And today, we're going to go over some of my favorite Chinese-made knives. Chinese-made knives that fall into this category of 4-inch blade folders. 4-inch blade folders that are in my collection. Well, let me see, what should we start off with? Let's start off with the bag lighters. The Kizer bag lighter has been one of my favorite plunge lock folders for its price. And what I mean by that is that I don't think you can find a much better one that's in this size range for under $100. And that's what all these sort of do. This one right here is a modification of mixing this one with this one, because originally it came with these scales, and this one came with the carbon fiber scales. This was the high-end one. And they went for like $134. But these other two, this one had, these are McCarter scales. This one originally had McCarter scales. Would go for originally about like $84 or something like that. And this one was even cheaper than $84, or it might have been $84. I can't remember, but it originally had white scales, white G10 scales, and I dyed them purple. This was a Purple Rain. So just let you know right there, none of these came looking like they look now. They've all been sort of modified. All my Kizer bag lighter XLs. Let's start off with this one. This one was a new purchase for this year. I purchased this one this year. And it sort of fell out of my box because I just have so many knives I like in my rotation drawer that I sort of removed it out the box. Knives I like actually better than this one. But it's an excellent knife. They come with 154 cm. This is stonewash finish. This is another one that I gave a model of like this one to Lucky. And it had the green McCarter scales on it. These are excellent knives. But again, these are plunge locks, people. Remember, these are plunge locks. These aren't heavy duty knives. I wouldn't even really recommend a lightweight plunge lock like this knife as a self-defense knife even. I think it's its purpose is more of a, like I used to like using this for work. The plunge lock knives I have that are bag lighters. They were like mostly like work knives for me because they're great because of the type of blade they have. The 154 cm holds an excellent edge. The CPM 154. And it's not CPM 154, 154 CM. Let me not get that mixed up there. 154 CM. Blade holds an excellent edge. It's because it's a full flat ground and it's not too thick. It's a great slicer. It's great for slicing cheese and salami and things that you might prepare for yourself for lunch. And that was the role of these knives for me. And sure, I'm sure, you know, if it was a last ditch effort and you had to use it as a self-defense tool, it's got a long enough blade where it could actually be a self-defense tool, but it wouldn't be my first pick for a self-defense tool. No plunge lock, like I explained on a previous video, would be my first pick for a self-defense tool, except for like the Hogue X5. Let you guys get a look at it. And these actually have fairly decent lockup for plunge locks. They cover a good part of the blade tang. But like all plunge locks, so if you spine whack them a lot and stuff like that, you know, just like a liner lock or whatever, you know, you're you know, very liable to create a fail. Because with plunge locks, what happens is that when you spine whack them, lots of times the plunger itself will move a little bit and it can come undone. They're not really good for shock value. But they are great knives for, you know, if you're just going to use a knife as a utility knife, when you're not spine whacking or doing something abusive and you're just using it as a cutting tool, it's excellent for that. Just like a liner lock. Liner locks are excellent for being cutting tools. And same thing with frame locks or compression locks. But all of those, you know, the plunge lock, liner lock, frame lock, and compression lock, to me, are light duty locks. They're not heavy duty locks, they're light duty locks. And especially like frame locks, I know I always see them on knives that are marketed as heavy duty folders or heavy duty lock, heavy duty type folders for heavy duty use. And I always sort of smile at that because I don't think that's what that is. Sure, it's stronger than most well done frame locks are stronger than a liner lock would be, as far as like weight hang and taking the spine whacking and abusing and stuff like that. But still, they're not. That's what they're meant for. They're not a heavy duty type knife lock. Not in my opinion, anyway. But this is a great knife. If you like to fidget, plunge locks are awesome fidgeting knives. Plunge locks are the most common type of locks that are used in automatic knives. They're fun to fidget with. They're fun to use. But I don't think of it as like a really good tactical knife lock. I think it's perfectly suited for everyday cutting chores and light duty use. That's the way I think of plunge locks, liner locks, compression locks, and frame locks. I think the ones that are better suited for heavy duty tactical use would be the strongest one would be the triad lock, and then after that would be probably a deadbolt lock, and then a shark lock and atlas lock and axis type lock or crossbar lock. But every kind of lock knife, every kind of lock blade knife is only as strong as it is how well it's made. And like if you look at and one reason why I say that these would be better as light duty knives, the stop pins on them are really small. They're not big heavy duty stop pins. That's one thing that's needed. And the plunger itself on these is a fairly decent size. But if you look at the bar that holds the plunger, it's fairly small. So I wouldn't expect this to be like the best knife for a tactical knife. I'm just being honest, people, just telling you how I feel. This one has carbon fiber scales because I swapped them out with the other knife. Black stonewash blade. We'll get into blade thicknesses and stuff at the end of the video. The blade, I'm pretty sure it's around a 4-inch blade. Deep carry pocket clip. And I set this one up like this so it could be all black and be a great work knife. It would go unnoticed. The stainless steel liners are, what do you call it, skeletonized. Excellent blade steel for cutting. Excellent blade type for cutting. Full flat ground 154 cm blade made by Kizer Cutlery. To me, Kizer Cutlery and Civivi, We Knives, CJRB, Artisan Cutlery, and what's the other one? Riot. Those are all the to me the more premium knife makers in China. I haven't been buying too many Chinese knives lately. These are all knives the only one I purchased out of this whole bunch here this year is this one. And the reason being, I'm going to be blunt about it, is because of the conflicts that have been going on between the United States and China. It sort of turned me off, because I'm a military veteran and I consider myself a patriot and all that kind of stuff. And it just sort of been bothering me, so. And even though I don't like to not buy products or put down companies or be against companies or whatever, just because of the politics that are going on in that country, because the politics are done by the people who are running the country, not the people who are running the companies. But I still, it sort of turned me off to wanting to purchase a lot of Chinese products. And I know that in our country you can't go without purchasing Chinese products, especially if you like to wear underwear or clothes. It's like, but sometimes I think it's good to do the best we can and give a little bit more support to the countries that are allied with the United States. That's the way I sort of look at that. That's the reason why I buy a lot of Taiwan. You know, if I'm going to get something from Asia, it'll be either, you know, from Japan or Taiwan, because Taiwan is an ally of the United States, just like Japan's almost like, you know, a part of the United States almost. But I know they used to be our enemy at one time, but they haven't been our enemy for a long time. They've been more of a partner to the United States. Just like Germany. Germany was our enemy at one time, but not no longer. Same thing with Italy. Italy was our enemy at one time during World War II, and so was Germany and Japan. But all three of those countries since the war have become our allies. But anyway, let me not get all off into that kind of stuff or whatever. Let's just stick to the knives. All right, people. This one right here, this is Purple Rain. This is my favorite Kizer of all my Kizers. And this one had the white G10 handle scales. I think it was a White Mountain, or not, it might have been Smoky Mountain, Smoky Mountain. It's either White Mountain or Smoky Mountain. It might have been White Mountain knives I got these from, the Kizers. I think most of my artisans came from Smoky Mountain knife work. Another excellent blade. And this one I started put back in my drawer because I still like using these for, you know, food prep and stuff like that at work. But Lucky convinced me that the black blades aren't the best ones for food prep because of the black finish. He said the finish might be toxic or something like that. And so it made me think about it a little bit. You know, I listened to Lucky. And so I decided to pull this one out and I put this one back in my drawer. This was in my drawer last year. I think the Kizer knives are excellent knives for food prep. And that's what I use it for, is food prep. This one right here hasn't been used. I've never used this one. But this would be another one that'd be great for food prep too. This one has the micarta scales on it. Nody green micarta scales. It was originally on the black knife. This one originally had the carbon fiber scales on it. 154 cm. And like I said, these are great light duty knives. That's the way I think of them. They're just awesome light duty knives, and they're fun to have at work because when you get bored, you get downtime or something like that. They're fun to play with, fun to fidget with, easy to open and close. Doesn't take any effort to open and close them. And I think they would be safer than, you know, like not these types of knives without flippers. At least with the flipper, you got a little bit of protection. But this type of flipper, though, if you put a lot of pressure on it, it will go past your finger and you could get cut if you hit something with a lot of pressure. But if it just comes apart when you're doing something light duty, I think you'd be all right. So it's a decently safe knife. That's what I'm trying to say. Now let's leave them open. Excellent knives. These are my Big Lighters. Big Lighter XLs. I think they're a good knife. Decent knife. Next up. Let's go from low-end artisans to medium artisans to high-end artisans. This one right here, this is a Virginia. The model that this one is called a Virginia. All of these have D2 blades. This one has G10 scales. And all the artisans, they use pretty good materials to make all their knives, to tell you the truth. These ones right up here, these are all liner locks. And they all function perfectly, nice and centered. Very well made. Feels good in hand, good grip. Nice long blade. Looks like it'd be a great self-defense folder, but then again, liner locks to me are light duty knives. This one has a saber flat ground blade with the swedge at top. And it is D2. This one's called the Virginian. It's a beautiful looking knife. fairly thick blade stock. Next one up. This one's called the Zumwalt. The Zumwalt. This one has carbon fiber scales. It's a liner lock flipper. This one feels like it has a little bit more protection than the Virginian. If you release the blade lock, it feels like you got pretty good protection due to the flipper. So I would say that this one's probably a little bit safer than the Virginian. The Virginian, if you undo the blade lock, this could probably slip past your finger. You know, sort of like this model right here. You'll probably slip past your finger, but you have a good warning. Zumwalt, on the other hand, you got a nice big finger groove. So even if it does come loose, you're down low enough where the flipper is going to hit on your finger high enough to probably stop it. D2 blade, fairly good blade thickness again. It's one thing I like about the Artisan knives. They make their knives fairly thick. Their blades are fairly thick. And it has thick liners. It doesn't have thin liners like a Spyderco. These liners look pretty thick, like at least 2 millimeters, which is fairly thick for a liner lock knife. Carbon fiber, and also look at the pivots. The pivots are really nice too. Very nice blade. And it's a saber flat ground blade with a fuller that goes all the way almost to the full length of the blade. And then you got like a cutout to help you assist in opening the knife. So it's easy to reverse finger flick. Flipper. Nice knife, fairly nice knife. And these are the least expensive ones. They're both, I think they're around normally they're around like $50, a $50 knife. The Kizer bag lighters, unless you get like the carbon fiber model, these are like $80 knives, $80 to $90 knives. And the carbon fiber model is like $134 for their. And this is what you would call a marbled carbon fiber, which is usually a more expensive type of carbon fiber. This type of carbon fiber you can find it on less expensive knives. Just the pattern is, I guess it's easier to do or something. Next up, we got what's this one called? I forget. The Shark. That's right. It's called the Shark. D2 blade. You got brass scales, blue stainless steel liners, blue anodized stainless steel liners. Fairly thick blade. Deep carry pocket clip. Easy to open and close. I really like the way this one looks. It is handle heavy due to the full metal handles of the brass handle scales make it heavy. I just like the way it looks. I have several of these in brass and bronze and copper of all the same models because they were like a Smoky Mountain Knives exclusive. And so that's the reason why I got these. They're exclusives. Very cool looking blades. D2 handles, D2 blade. This is a saber flat ground blade. Very nice looking knife. This one right here is a copper one. This model right here is called the RKO. It's a Dylan Mallory design. And out of all the artisan knives I own, this is my favorite design for artisan knives, is the Dylan Mallory. Dylan Mallory is a knife designer from California, and he's contracted out to Artisan Knives to make design knives for them. And I really like this one. I also have this one in brass, and it's one that I used a lot. I carried a whole lot. Liner lot. Feels very safe in hand. Unlike this one, even though it's got a flipper, it feels like the flipper under pressure would just go past your finger and you would get cut. This one right here feels like it's not going to go anywhere. It's one reason why I like the RKO. Dylan Mallory design. Saber flat ground blade, fairly thick. These knives all have very good weight to them. I love the pivots on them. They even have a copper collar around them. Very nice knife. Stainless steel line, fully stainless steel line, and it's all skeleton knives. Excellent knife. Next one up, this one's called the Tradition. And this is like Artisan's heavy duty knife. And I also have one in titanium, but I couldn't find it in the safe, but I know I have another one that's in titanium. I was trying to get all these out here, that all my different titanium models. That's the only one that's missing is Tradition. Also have this in brass and copper also. This one has a backspacer on it, copper backspacer, stainless steel liners. Liner lot. Thick blade tang, or blade stock. Feels really good in hand. Feels like a heavy duty knife, but then like I was saying, even though that they make one of these types of knives in more of a heavy duty fashion, like it's meant for heavy duty work, I don't think of it that way. I still think of it as being a liner lock, because that's what it basically is. It's still a liner lock. So, you know, I wouldn't be trying to baton with it and do all that other kind of stuff with it. D2 blade. This one has a real high saber flat ground blade. Got a lot of weight to it. Pocket clips reversible to both sides. I'm pretty sure that's how all these are. Yep. 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 Very nice knife. Very nice knife. And you can also get these, like all these models, because pretty much all the Artisan models that you see on this table, except for these two, the Zumwalt and the Virginia, you only can get them in like the budget versions with the liner locks. But all these models, you can get them with frame locks, and you can get them, or you can get them with liner locks with like with G10 or different or micarta, you know, different handle materials, different scale materials. You can get them like that too. Like this one right here, I have it in G10 also. I have this one in G10 also, and I have this one in micarta also. And this one, I think I don't have it in any other materials. I'm not sure. But this one, I have it in G10 also, not G10, but micarta also. And I also have it in the other, you know, blade metals also. Just like all these, I pretty much have them like that. But I didn't want to bring them all out on the table because it would just take up the whole entire table. So I brought some to represent each category of artisan knives I have. This one's called the Waistline. These are all titanium Let me first just say that all these are titanium. These three have M390. This one has S35VN. But I also have these three in different colors. And, not this one. This one's on M390. Let me put this one over here like this. Okay, this one right here is Damascus, and it's polished Damascus that I polished. It's a VG10 Damascus. This one is S35VN. These two are M390. But I also have these two in S35VN, and I have this one in M390 also, and I have this one in, I want to say S35VN also. Might be either S35VN or M390. Other titanium versions of these. I have like 2 titanium versions of each one. This one right here is called the Waistline. And who turned me on to artisan cutlery is Wild Bill. Wild Bill on one of you guys, one of my old viewers. And so I started checking them out. I said, yeah, these are nice. And I think they're pretty, compared to other titanium knives in their type of class, they're very affordable. All these knives are like either the high 100s or to like a low $200 range. These were all, well, I caught them on sale when they were closing them out. And so I was paying like $40 and $50 a piece for these. These were like the same thing. These are like $40 to $50 because I caught them on closeout during a period of time when Smoky Mountain Knife Works was closing them out. And they don't have these no more because I think these got discontinued because these were exclusive models. But you can still get these. And now these are like about $50 to $60. But these were originally like $70, $80 knives. And then when they got down to not having that many of them left, they started to close them out. And that's when I purchased them. So my timing on those was just right. Because I thought they make great collectors. These are titanium handles. Nice thick blade stock. Saber flat ground blade. This is what I would call sort of like my gentleman's knife. Absolutely love it. These have hardened steel inserts in them in the titanium handles, which I like. Titanium pocket clips. And no lanyard holes. I don't like lanyard holes. I can do without lanyard holes. I'm not a lanyard person for pocket knives. But this is a very nice knife. Very lightweight, yet has a very sturdy blade. No blade play up and down, no wiggle or wobble. It's just a totally nice locking up knife. And you know what? I think I do have this one in micarta. I think it's micarta that I have this one in. Now that I think about it, because I think I do have one. These are excellent knives too. And it's supposed to be made after the pattern of it. The ideal for this pattern of handle, whatever, is made after a famous building that's in China. I can't remember what city in China, but it's made to look like the building that's like a skyscraper in China. Very cool knife. I think it'd be a good self-defense tool for a gentleman. Because the lockup on it's really nice and tight. But then again, though, still, it's not a heavy-duty knife. It's not a heavy-duty tactical knife or anything like that. It'd be considered a light duty, in my opinion. Actually, it's a very nice knife. Next up, the RKO. This one has a carbon fiber insert, titanium handle, titanium frame lock, titanium pocket clip. It's got a hardened steel insert. And this one's M390. Also have it in S35VN. This one has been carried. Got a few little wear marks on it. I like the RKO. My favorite RKO is this one. I do have this in micarta. I think it's brown micarta that I have it in with a liner lock. And I also have it in brass, bronze, and copper. And the brass one is the one that I carried. This one and the brass one are the ones I carried. The whole time I was carrying the knife never failed on me or anything like that. The lockup on these is solid. And this is one I got fidget with a lot. And it's still, very solid knife. So I can say, from experience that this is a good knife. This is the Dylan Mallory design one. Dylan Mallory is a designer from California. It's a very good knife. I remember talking to Russell from Artisan Cutlery and CJRB. Talked on the phone for about an hour, and he gave me all sorts of information on these knives. He's like a really cool dude. He's like the representative for Artisan Cutlery in the United States. He lives in California. Really cool guy. The handle on this feels really nice too. Even though it's a really slim looking slender handle, it fits my hand really nice. And you all know that that's important to me. And if this one was to give out, it's not going to go anywhere. I think it's probably one of the safest models that Artisan makes. The waistline feels very safe too. If this one gives out, because it's got like a little bit of jimping in the flipper, and it grabs into your fingers. So, but I think probably the safest one, the one I would say would be the safest, would be this one. This one has jimping in the finger, in the flipper also. I don't know if you guys can see that. Plus, you got a big finger groove, and so it's sort of like, and like you can see that, like it's like a tooth, and this part bites into your finger, so it really feels like it's not going to be able to fold in on your hand. I really like it. I think it's a really, really nice knife. This one right here is a shark, like this one. This is the high-end version of that one. This one also has carbon fiber insert into the titanium handle on the show side. As a spot taken out for your pocket clip to fit into. It's got the nice pivots. I really like the Artisan pivots. Like the way I like Dimco pivots. They put a little bit extra effort into it. Artisan Cutlery is like the top of the line cutlery company for CJRB. Just like we is to Civivi and Sincut. Nice thick blade stock. Very nice knife. This one is a Damascus blade, VG10 Damascus. I don't know if you can tell, because I highly polished it out. Because I like the way polished Damascus looks. Because normally it was like a black and dull silver look. Or dull, what do you call it? A duller finish, and I thought it looked nicer if it was polished. And to me, it does look nicer polished. You know me, people. I always like to make things the way I think they would look the best. This is a beautiful knife. Beautiful knife. Last but not least is the Hornet. And this to me reminds me of the Daryl Ralph series of knives with the Mad Max Stiletto, the 5.5 Stiletto. And it's one of the first ones I got. I think first I got this one, and then I saw this one. I had to have this one. And I have this in G10. And I never got one. They didn't have this offered in the brass, because I would have gotten that too. But I do have it in G10 also. And I also have another one of these. I think it's a different color if I remember right. Different color titanium finish. Or it might be black also. I can't remember exactly. But it's got the other blade still. This one, the other one I have is a M390. This one's a S35VN. Beautiful knives. Now this one though is probably the least safe one, because these flippers, or quillions, whatever you want to call them, they do not stop this blade from coming in on your hand at all, because of the way they're shaped. They're poking and they're sticking out in the wrong direction. Now, if they're coming back towards you, they probably would help aid in preventing the knife from folding in on your hand. But the way these quillions are, they're facing downwards instead of backwards. Because of that, they're not safe at all. So there's nothing to stop this knife from folding in on your hand. If the slot gave out, you would get cut. But I think it's just a sexy knife. I don't care. I like the way it looks. Y'all know I like stilettos and daggers and things. Beautiful knife. All right, let's get into some measurements. We'll start off with blade thicknesses. Start with the bag lighters. Bag lighter XL, 3.17 or 3.2 millimeter. All these are exactly the same. All the parts on these are interchangeable. The knives aren't different. They're all the same. Next up, the Virginia, Artisan Cutlery Virginia. 3.39, almost a 3.5 millimeter. 3.4, yeah, I'd basically just call this a 3.5. It's easier to do that. In this one, we got to close it a little bit so we can get onto the back of the blade tang, so we can see exactly how thick the thickest part of the blade tang is, the blade stock. 3.61. 3.61. Let's do the same thing on this one, because I would expect these both to be the same blade thickness. It doesn't look like it really changes though. Still says 3.37, 3.4. So this one is a little bit thinner than the Zumwalt, the Virginian. Next up, the brass scaled Shark, 3.75, 3.75, almost 3.8 millimeters. Getting close to 4 millimeters. The RKO, the design that I like best, from Dylan Mallory. 3.80, 3.81. I bet you they're marketing these as 4 millimeter. I can't remember. Oh, the M is Mallory's design mark. this M right here. That means stands for Mallory. On the Tradition, .74. Maybe they're marketing them as 3.8 millimeters too. 3.74. These are all basically the same thickness. Now we'll come back over here to the waistline. .98. Okay, that's 4 millimeters. 4 millimeters thick for the top of the line one. Top of the line RKO, Dylan Mallory design. 3.81 again, about the same thickness as this one. The Shark, .82. It says 3.76. About the same size as the other one. So the waistline is the thickest one so far. .90 or 3.91 for the Hornet. All right, let's get into how much they weigh. Make a little bit of room here. First up, the Zumwalt, 5.3 ounces. 5.3 ounces, people. The Virginian, 4.7 ounces. The Shark, the Brass Shark, I expect this one to be heavy, 6.4 ounces. The Copper RKO, 6.6 ounces. And this is the heaviest one. This should be the heaviest one. The Bronze Tradition, 9.6 ounces. So, you know, that's a real heavy knife, and it looks like a heavy-duty knife, but I'm telling you, it's a liner lock. Don't think of it that way, please. Don't expect it to be, you know, like a triad folder or something. 3.8 ounces for the waistline. Nice lightweight for a knife that has the thickest blade stock out of all of these. It's probably one of the easiest ones to carry and conceal. Because none of them, well, this one has these two or maybe three have like the deepest pocket clips, deepest carried pocket clips. But this one's just super light. The one I like, Dylan Mallory design, got your M on it. RKO, one that I've actually carried, 3.9 ounces. Excellent knife. You know, I just have to say, you know, it is an excellent knife. You know, even though, you know, things go on with China and stuff, you know, these knives are really, really nice knives. The Shark, titanium Shark with the Damascus steel, VG10 Damascus steel blade, 4.0. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that it's Damascus, but, you know, because you have to really look at it because I polished it out really good, but you can see the lines in it from the Damascus steel being layered or whatever. It's just a really beautiful blade just to look at. It's like one of those knives that's good to look at up close. You gotta really be able to see it up close, sort of like a San Mai blade. It's hard to see the San Mai line sometimes on, you know, in videos and stuff. It's a really nice looking blade. The Hornet's a little bit heavier because it's got a fairly big titanium handle. So let's see what this one weighs. 4.9 ounces. Which one was the heaviest one out of the titanium ones? That's 4.0. This one's like a 3 something. 3.9. So the Hornet is the heaviest. 3.8. So I'm pretty much in order. And this one's the heaviest. The bag lighters. One with the micarta scales, 5.0. One with the G10 scales, 5.4. So micarta's not as heavy as G10. That's what that tells me. Because these knives are exactly the same. The only thing that's different on them is the scales. All three of these are exactly the same. The only thing that's different is on the scale. So it tells you that G10 is heavier than micarta. That's a good way to tell that. Let's see how heavy the carbon fiber one is. 5.2. So which one was lighter? 5.0. The micarta's lighter. Then comes the carbon fiber. It's heavier than the micarta. And then the G10 is 5.5. Was it 5.0? 5.0. 5.2. 5.5. Well, now we're saying 5.4. 5.4. So each one is a little bit heavier than the other. Blade length. Let's get into the blade lengths. 4 inches exactly. 4 inches exactly. 4 inches exactly. Give myself a little bit of room here. This one is a little bit over 3 3/4. Four inches exactly. A little bit over 3 3/4. And this one's like 4 1/4 or 4 1/8. That's 4 1/8, not 1/4. It's 4 1/8. So it's a little bit over 4 inches. Again, the lightest one with the thickest blade stock. The thing that makes this one light is that the handle scales are lighter. And the blade is a narrow blade, but it's long and narrow, like a stiletto sort of. It's upswept, sort of like a Japanese tanto. Very interesting blade, very interesting knife. And I don't think they were trying to copy any American or European styles. You know, that what makes this one sort of cool to me is like the most Chinese looking one out of all of them, really. This one sort of got, it looks like there's a lot of modern day stilettos that sort of look like this, especially when you go into, what do you call them? Darryl Ralph knives. There's a lot of Darryl Ralph knives that look like this. American made Darryl Ralph knives. So I sort of think they got the idea for that one from that. And this is just like a standard looking knife to me. There's lots of knives that sort of look like this. This one's a little bit different, the Dylan Mallory one, but it's American designer. This one looks like it's totally inspired by China, which is cool though, because I like knives like that. I like knives that represent people's cultures and things like that. I'm not against people's cultures or whatever. I think that's cool when something is not trying to copy somebody else's culture and making their own version of somebody else's culture, and they just want to represent themselves. That's cool to me. And that's what this one sort of does for me anyway. The waistline. It does it more than any of the other designs from them. I could sort of say the same for this one too, the Virginian. It doesn't look like an American knife. Sort of the Zomwalt the same way too. This one looks American to me. Looks like they're trying to copy like an American heavy duty knife. But all the other ones are pretty original looking. Anyway, let's get into it. 4 inches for the tradition. This one should be just like the other one. Yep. It's actually like 4 7/8. 4 7/8. Is that what this one is too? Yep, 4 7/8, exact same size. This was a 4 incher. This one a 4 incher. Yep. The Virginian. Virginian's 4 7/8. I mean 3 7/8. Did I say 4 7/8? I meant to say 3 7/8. Yeah, 3 7/8, not 4 7/8. If I said 4 7/8, I misspoke. 3 7/8. Virginian 3 7/8. And the Zumwalt's 3 7/8 also. All right, people. Well, these are my Chinese folders. My folders from China, made in China, that have, close, fits the 4 inch large knife standard that I've set, from 3 3/4 to 4.5 inches. That's why I'm calling large knives. These all fall into that group. Absolutely love all of them. Even though, the politics are kind of sour in my mind right now with China and the United States, I hope things get better. And I hope China leaves Taiwan alone. I know China's trying to claim Taiwan, I don't know. And, they may have the right to do that. I don't know. But, I just think when any country wants to be independent and stuff like that, I think other countries, just because they're bigger and stronger, shouldn't be trying to force themselves on them. And I think Taiwan's been Taiwan for a long time. And, it's near Japan. And it's like in between Japan and China. And I think they just need to be their own country. That's what they want to be. That's my personal opinion on that. And so I support Taiwan just like I support Ukraine. I know there's a lot of people in our country right now that are sort of getting down on Ukraine because they get tired of aiding Ukraine or whatever. But I think Russia is totally wrong for trying to invade Ukraine. I'm totally against that. I think they don't have the right to do that. It'd be like somebody trying to invade the United States or invade California. What kind of crap would that be? Would you want somebody invading your state or your country? And you've been established? Because Ukraine has broken away from Russia when the USSR broke up. And they've been doing fine just on their own. And slowly Russia's been trying to, take it back over. First started with Crimea. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to get into politics. It's not supposed to be a politics channel. But I just want you all to know how I think. I think it's wrong. I think every country right now that has established boundaries and is an established country should be allowed to be its own independent self, its own independent entity. I think the day of invading other people's countries and taking their land from them, sort of like the way this country was made. It was made by taking land away from Native Americans. And fighting over land that the French had occupied or the Spanish had occupied. It was all about taking from other people or whatever. And I think those kind of days should be done with. I think we live in a time where we should just accept people's countries for what they are and accept people's cultures for what they are, and not try to enforce or impose our beliefs in our countries on other people's and think that we have the right to take them over or anything like that. I'm totally against that, people. Let people be. Let people be. Be satisfied with what you have. Make the best of what you have. That's where I look at things. But anyway, these are my Chinese knives. Let me slap myself. Get back to reality or whatever. Get back to just being a knife person. I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I just, just get back to being a knife, talking about knives. That's all I want to do. All right, people. Peace out. Stiletto. Have a great day.